Welcome to the Nth Degree, where we talk about the latest trends, technologies, and innovations that are happening across the healthcare and media spaces. I'm Amanda Preto, and today we're having a discussion about the deprecation of third-party cookies and evolving global data privacy regulations, and of course, what this all means for our industry. So today we're here with Leanne Smith and Cliff Covey to learn more about these critical changes and specifically how CMI Media Group is innovating data strategies and leveraging new technologies to prepare you, our clients, for the post-cookie era. Let's dive right in. Can you please give us some direction and insight into how all of this is impacting our industry in terms of media planning, buying, and specifically audience targeting and measurement?
Yeah, absolutely. As someone who is leading a lot of our efforts to prepare for the third-party cookie deprecation, it's obviously been a pretty interesting few years. We've known for quite some time that Google is no longer planning to deprecate and remove third-party cookies from Chrome. But I think that came to more of a more formal close of late when they announced that they are shuttering their privacy sandbox, which is their overarching privacy initiative, with a variety of privacy projects, but mostly focused on the removal of third-party cookies from Chrome.
At the end of the day, any data privacy regulations, the goal is to protect individuals' rights and their information. And we need to respect that and build trust with our customers.
But I don't think all of the work that was done, even though third-party cookies are not going to be removed, was for waste and was wasted. I think there certainly is a line of thinking that everybody who just did nothing and waited and assumed that third-party cookies were never going to be removed were winners. And I think that's a pretty naive way of thinking, especially considering 50% of the internet operates already without third-party cookies. If you're relying on third-party cookies and didn't plan, you're behind the mark as it is.
But we also have to stay compliant with legislation and work with kind of like content-based ecosystems. And there's still plenty of ways to reach a patient or a healthcare professional and get them the information they need. We just have to see data as something like that we steward and not just something that we use, and make privacy a value and not a constraint.
So I think while we won't see third-party cookies officially deprecated from Chrome, the work that was done was very strong. We're thinking about more deterministic IDs. Cookies are just not the most reliable ID to begin with. They weren't built for advertising. They were hijacked to fit our needs. And so I think that the progress we made was really strong, both from an ID resolution standpoint, looking at more universal, more deterministic IDs, as well as some of the contextual predictive models that we're seeing that I think we're going to talk about throughout this conversation.
And of course, we've been working with you on this for a couple of years now and watching how this all unfolds. So to that point, Cliff, can you talk to us a little bit about how this has impacted CMI Media Group's approach to data collection, data privacy, et cetera?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll start with just thinking about our targeting and our addressable targeting. Like addressable and health-based audiences are always going to be a core component of our plan, so long as they are compliant and fit the legislative policies that we're going to discuss throughout. And I don't think, especially like I said, third-party cookies are not being removed, but when we combine them with the alternative IDs, we're still going to be able to rely on these addressable health-based models, whether it's HCP or targeting patients.
So we want to use first-party data. I think that's where, too, with the cookie deprecation, we're going towards using more first-party data and contextual opportunities.
But I think a lot of the evolution has come in kind of some of the more predictive models about where we can reach our audience. We think a lot about if you reach the right content, that's great. But if you reach the right person, that's even better. And I think if getting to the most ideal scenario is when you reach the right person in the right content. That's the holy grail.
So we want to be there for them, as Cliff said, like at the right time when they're seeking out that information, and help them be educated, empowered as they go through their journey, their medical journey.
So when we think about that, I think a lot of the solutions that have come to the space over the past few years in preparation for the third-party cookie deprecation is really using AI to process massive amounts of data and really understand where our audience is, so we can couple the predictive contextual aspect of things with the audience-based approach we've always relied on. And I think we're seeing a lot of success in that space. And I think combining that approach with the addressable health-based audiences that we've historically relied on is kind of where we're focusing in on.
So to that end, Leanne, how is CMI Media Group and how is your team actually doing that? What new and innovative technologies and solutions are we leveraging, and what do you see as the most promising?
I think the way of the future is really owning first-party data, which a lot of our clients are moving towards, because you need to build that trust with the patient and or the healthcare professional You need them to agree to opt in to receiving information. And many of them are very willing to do that as they're going through their medical journey. And we need our data strategy to build that trust with them.
The first party data conversation, I think the healthcare space has long thought about first party data as CRM, and no one wants to communicate with a pharma company unless they have to. But I think we're moving beyond that, and we're getting to a space where we're beginning to think about first party data as on-site data and making sure that we have the appropriate consents when someone comes to our website to use that information for measurement and for targeting purposes and retargeting and things along those lines. So I think it is really making sure that you have the framework to not only think about first party data as strictly CRM, but also all of the data that you're able to collect from online activity.
So I think it's about using first party data, using aggregated insights, using secure technology like clean rooms, and being transparent all the way through the journey. I'll say the marketing journey as well as the medical journey.
Completely agree. And why don't you talk to us, Cliff and Leanne, please, a little bit more about how we're doing this, how collaborations and partnerships are supporting this and strengthening CMI Media Group's capabilities in this area.
From a WPP perspective, we have invested in owning a clean room to process that data in a secure manner. Also, we are working with IAB's Safeguard Privacy tool to ensure all the suppliers that we work with on behalf of our clients are compliant with every state privacy law, as well as GDPR where applicable globally.
It's really important for us to make sure we're working with the right data providers when we're leveraging third-party data, making sure that, to Leanne's point, we're using the IAB tools and our resources to make sure that our partners have the appropriate consent, whether that's through health communities or owned and operated consent-based models that they have, but really focusing in on core data providers that have that consent and strengthening the relationships in those areas.
And then, as Cliff said too, using AI is going to help us understand in a privacy compliant manner, like digesting all the data that we have and making sure we're able to target those people that we need to target in a compliant manner using like new technologies and new targeting methodologies.
Let's shift over to hear about what this all means in terms of data privacy and regulations that we and our clients need to be thinking about and preparing for.
So when patients and professionals trust that their data is being handled responsibly, they will engage and they will. So I like trust and performance will go hand in hand.
Core area of focus for myself and my team is really where we are seeing legislation impact our ability to target patients or use data in a number of states. What can we do that goes beyond health modeled audiences to reach them? Right now, we're restricted to a few states, but that's going to grow in some capacity over the coming years. I think we all anticipate it becoming more restrictive versus less, especially in the absence of any federal legislation. But really working to identify strategies that would work in states that have implemented more strict legislative policies around data usage. I think that trust is so important, especially with all the focus on privacy. It's a lot easier to lose trust than it is to earn it back. And we're in such a sensitive space that I think the responsibility goes beyond CMI Media Group. It's everybody in the healthcare space to make sure that we're all working together and that we're doing right and building the trust with our patients and that we're using their data in an appropriate manner.
Thank you, Cliff and Leanne, so much for this conversation. Very insightful, ever-changing, always interesting. Let's leave our clients with one thing that they need to pay attention to and take into action right away.
One thing I think is focusing in on trust and building strong relationships with your audience, whether that be first-party data you're collecting or third-party data you're leveraging, making sure that if it's an ID, a piece of data that you're collecting, that the consumer knows how it's being used and that they're consenting for it to be used.
And I'll just build off of that again. It's all about using that data responsibly. And as mentioned before, make privacy a value and not a constraint. So building that trust with them so they value you and you can have that conversation with them.
Incredible. Thank you both. And thank you all for joining us on the Nth Degree. Remember to like and subscribe.